In 1964, after I'd been stationed in Panama for about 18 months, I became curious about how the Panama Canal actually worked. I was able to get aboard a landing ship that was making a partial transit of the canal, along with a whole bunch of other people from the military. This is the approach from Limon Bay that was dug leading up to the Gatun Locks, the Atlantic side locks of the Panama Canal. The difference in height of the two ships you see is 85 feet. Here we approach the first of the locks going into the canal, and the LST is hooked up to one of the locomotives or mules that assist in pulling the ship through the canal. Ships don't make the transit under their own power. The gates here are over 60 feet high, and each half is approximately 50 feet wide. They are made of steel and they're about 2 meters thick. Here you can see the LST going up in the first bay. You can see just at the front of the ship the gray horizontal line that, if you keep watching it, will begin to creep up against the background, and that's because the boat is in a chamber that's filling with water and being floated upwards. It's not a very rapid process and very hard to see, although if you look over the side of the boat you can see the speed with which the water is churning into the bay of the lock that you're in. And some fish also come along with the ship as it goes through. This is the side of the lock. Again, this is a heavy steel gate. Because it was so hard to capture the actual action of the canal, I went back later and did some time-lapse photography. Here a ship is approaching the same way that we did from Limon Bay to the Gatun Locks. It's also entering the same bay of the locks that we entered as we transited. The gate opens, allowing the ship to come into the first bay. It's attached to the mules that guide it into the bay. You can see it shift slightly as it moves in. And then the gates are closed behind it, and the water goes from the higher chamber into the lower chamber, and the boat floats upwards. Every time a ship transits, the water is run from the lake, the fresh water is run from the lake down into the Caribbean. Here it enters the second bay. And lifted the second of 3 steps on the Atlantic side. These 2 mules are actually Japanese built and had just been installed on the canal while I was there. You can see the ship starting under its own power now, but the mules continue on alongside the ship until it actually clears the mouth of the locks. These are the older style mules that were the original equipment from 1914. Much more charming, but they only go 1/3 as fast as the newer Japanese devices. Both the old and the new are electric powered. They both require cogwheels to ascend and descend the sides of the bays as they go up and down. Something very romantic and old-fashioned about these 2 as they come up over the top and then regain the horizontal. Certainly much more romantic than the newer at that time. brand new versions. This is a cargo ship headed in the other direction now towards the Atlantic, coming down from the Lake Gatun area into Limon Bay. As you can see, it's a time when the crew doesn't have a whole lot to do, as they are actually under the command of a pilot at this time. So there's time for something that looks like shuffleboard while other people do the work. And the mules tow the boats into the next bay, where it will be on its way out into the Atlantic Ocean.